Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Butler. I'm the Director for Local Government Academy. Welcome to our afternoon webinar, Clearing the Road to Infrastructure Bonding, Avoiding Road Potholes. Thank you for joining us. So a big hi from me. Justin Philman's behind the camera here. He says a big hello also to all the supporters of Local Government Academy. I'd also like to thank Gateway Engineers for hosting and being the content experts for this webinar, and then also Washington Jefferson College. This webinar is in collaboration with the college, more specifically the Center for Energy Policy and Management, with Amanda Ludit, who I think is on the call, but will probably not be speaking, but she can if she would like to. So that's our webinar for this afternoon. I'm gonna go through a little introductory couple slides here about Local Government Academy, some of the classes that we have coming up, and then I'll hand it over to Scott, and he will take it from there. So just a couple of things very quickly. So we have a long-standing relationship with W&J College and the Center for Energy Policy and Management. This list of 4 items here are ideas that we have for the future over the next year or so, or less than a year, maybe 6 months. These are ideas that we're getting together, so they're not quite solidified yet or finalized, and it might change. But if you're interested in Marcellus shale, drilling, and natural gas extraction, these 4 sessions in the near future are geared right towards you and your organization. So please stay posted on both of our websites for those courses coming up in the future. And those are a combination of in-person classes and also webinars. A little bit about Local Government Academy, if you don't know who we are. We've been around 34 years. Just very quickly, we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan, non-advocating organization that helps promote excellence in local government. That's our mission. We do that through education, such as sessions like this, internships, technical assistance, and grants. So for more information on all of that, just please visit our website. If you don't know about us, we're a great asset in the region, and we would love for you to join our sessions in the near future. Speaking of the sessions, I'm going to run through these very quickly. We just happen to have 5 additional classes set up in the next month and a half, and we're working on scheduling throughout the rest of the year. I'll just give you a quick synopsis of each one of these. The first one is a path to a better transportation future, a collaboration with the RTA, Regional Transportation Alliance, which is part of the Allegheny Conference, and they did a great study. They spent 2 years on it, and they're going to present this study on May 7th to our audience. And it explains all of the data that they found about the changing requirements of transportation in our entire region. So that's the 11-county southwestern Pennsylvania region. That's going to be a great class. So if you can join us, that's free. The next one is in collaboration with Sustainable Pittsburgh, and it's how to perform a sustainability self-assessment for your municipality or your organization. Most importantly, your municipality. That'll be hosted by Jim Price, who runs the Sustainable Community Development Network of Southwestern Pennsylvania. And this will show you how to assess your current situation and how to improve operations and facilities and many, many parts of your organization to become a more sustainable organization. That's also free. In about 2 weeks, we have Maintaining Streams in Your Community. This is somewhat timely with spring and all of the landslides that we've been experiencing. This is a very important webinar hosted by us with the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. This is also a free webinar, and they're going to talk about things you can do on your own or things that you can get involved with the DEP on maintaining your stream quality and making sure that floods don't affect your municipality or municipalities downstream. So again, very timely. I would recommend you try to make that if you can. And then this one we offered 2 years ago. We had great success with it, so we're bringing it back. It's a grant seekers workshop with Catherine Hart of Hart Resources. Catherine's a nationally accredited grant proposal writer, and trainer. She's very, very well respected in the area, works with many, many organizations. This has a $50 charge, which includes lunch, but it looks like a 9 to 11, 12, 8, not 7-hour session. And it'll be a great comprehensive workshop on how to write grants, whether you're a municipality or a charitable or private organization. And then lastly, in June, we pushed it over to June a little bit. We have Drones in Your Community. This is with Steel City Drones, who's one of the premier drone operators in the city, Dave King, and he's going to tell us how drones are permitted and not permitted in your community. He's going to talk about licensing in the Federal Aviation Association, right, FAA, and things like that. So it's kind of an introductory, not real deep introduction on what to expect when residents and businesses start using drones in your community, and what you should know and what you could do about it. And that's also free. So we have a lot of great stuff coming up, and within a couple of weeks, we'll be introducing maybe 4 or 5 more classes. So LGA is on fire. So with that said, let's get to our current topic. I'd like to introduce Scott Russ-Missel from Gateway Engineers. As you can see on the bullet points to the right, Scott joined Gateway in the year 2000. He's all of these things. He's a project manager, a market segment leader, a shareholder, and a board member. He does represent several municipalities within the southwestern Pennsylvania region. And most importantly for this webinar, he has worked with private and commercial development for municipal improvements, residential developments, commercial developments, and natural gas development. So with that said, thank you for listening to my introduction. I'm going to hand it over to Scott. And Scott, again, thank you very much for joining us, and take it away.
All right, thank you, Greg. Thanks for the introduction. Thanks to the LGA, and thanks to the College WJ for letting us speak with you here this afternoon. Welcome, everyone. I'm Scott Russ-Missel with Gateway. Been practicing the field of engineering for approximately 20 years, well, a little over 20 years now I think about it. Early stages of my career, the first 10 or so, was focused mostly on the land development and the municipal engineering side of the business, representing local governments as well as municipal authorities. Over the last 10 years or so, focus has been on assisting the local operators here in Pennsylvania, surrounding states, with the development of natural gas, as well as maintaining the municipal engineering focus. So I've been on both sides of the table over the years. For an agenda this afternoon, I want to touch real quickly over the history and overview road bonding. We'll spend some time discussing the posting and bonding procedures that have been established here in Pennsylvania. We'll have a quick wrap up with the cooperation and lessons learned section of the presentation, and then we'll wrap it up with the question and answer period. Posting and bonding is nothing new to Pennsylvania. It's been around for several years. Local governments who have experienced, development, whether it be a residential development or maybe commercial development, would have experience working through the posting and bonding requirements. However, there are several local communities and governments living maybe in the outside areas, maybe in more of the rural areas, away from the road infrastructure system, that may have limited experience in that. Seems the road improvement projects certainly develop, and the roads certainly systems improve closer to the urban areas. History on these rural roads, the secondary and improved roadways, they were designed to and constructed to handle heavy traffic, excess traffic. The local and secondary roads were improved over time. They were originally constructed of dirt and gravel. Over time, paths were improved to travel sections, and then dirt and gravel. And then as time moves on, possibly there were thin overlays of asphalt or tar and chip. On these local rural roadway systems, truck traffic consists of your school buses, garbage trucks on occasion, maybe delivery trucks. But the traffic counts are certainly down, as well as the size of these vehicles. So what's new? The increase in the natural gas drilling activity in Pennsylvania over the last 10 years is what's new. What does that consist of? What impacts? What's the development of energy? It's well pad development, it's the drilling operations, the completion operations, pipeline construction. It's just more so than just a well pad development that seems to be on the forefront of it. All of those equal heavy truck traffic. Certainly a lot of truck traffic as development occurs. On the residential side, we always joke that it took maybe 30 trucks to build a home, 100 people. When it gets into the energy side and natural gas development, you're talking hundreds of trucks, maybe even on the upwards of thousands of trucks. These projects or these different components of the development, some are going to be considered called a short burn project, meaning it's limited time to start construction until it's up and operating. The heavy truck traffic is needed in the forefront, and then at the end tapers off, and it's just handled by service vehicles. Other components such as the well pad, maybe even a little bit on the compressor side, the truck traffic is going to continue for some time. Some of you out there may have seen this in the last 10 years. What's a local government to do? Looks like a queue of about 25 water trucks. The good news is Pennsylvania already had laws and regulations established for posting and bonding the roadway. Simply put, posting is establishing the weight limits and signage on the roadway to protect them from damage caused by over-posted weight vehicles. The other component, bonding, means to enter into an agreement between the local government and the user, the operator, the hauler, if you will, to allow for the use of the roadways. And that's with an understanding that whomever is using them agrees to pay for damages caused by the heavy over-posted weight vehicles. To post any roadway in Pennsylvania, it's recommended that you follow the PennDOT publication 221. It's a very good publication as far as the details that are described in forms and documents that are included with that as an example. I believe that there are 39 procedures outlined in that document. We're not going to spend time discussing each and every one of them. There are several that we will take some time to review a little bit of detail. And first and foremost, under number one, the engineering and traffic studies. The engineering and traffic studies are required on the upfront, the initial phase of the posting and processing or posting and bonding procedures. There's an outline in publication 46 of PennDOT that goes into great detail on what's required. Certainly on the initial engineering side of it, you're going to look at the vertical and horizontal geometry of the roadway, maybe even look at the turning radii. You check past experience with highway breakup. The highway breakup is probably more applicable to PennDOT. A lot of the smaller local communities might not have a lot of history there, but what that is how it's determining when you're reviewing and you're preparing these reports to study, how has the road reacted when they were used for hauling and truck traffic in the past. If there's a history of it, there's certain features that are going to occur, certain characteristics of that road that would be incorporated into your study. Certainly a pavement analysis will be done. There'll be some core drilling that would occur, and along with that, some calculations. We also need to know the ADT, the average daily trips. Need to establish the local traffic definitions and exemptions. Typically, you're always going to run into the same thing from ordinance to ordinance, but it's going to be emergency vehicles, school buses, and of course, government or maintenance vehicles are going to be exempt from it. The ordinance would be adopted, assisted by, or certainly your township solicitor would be involved in that component. Nice little bridge photo there in the lower right-hand corner, more or less with just a weight limit of 4 tons. Just will let you know that posting of that bridge is under a different section of PennDOT. You wouldn't find that under your section 221. It would be found under the section 191. Under 7 is the define the normal maintenance versus excess maintenance. What is the normal maintenance? It's the activities that occur that people typically overlook on an existing roadway prior to any bonding or any excess maintenance agreements that would be established for that roadway. That would be your inlet and your culvert cleaning, for instance, shoulder grading, line striping, and snow removal. Excess maintenance would be described as anything other than what was normal. If there's damages caused to it over time from heavy loaded overweight vehicles, that would be included in an excess maintenance. Problems with the piping network, say it's crushed pipes, edge damage along the roadway, or even some instances, possibly even the reconstruction of that roadway would be considered excess maintenance. This, by the way, we will provide this PowerPoint if anybody is looking for, so we can minimize some of the note taking. Just wanted to go over that. Touch briefly the last slide on the EMA, the excess maintenance agreement. Similar to bonding, it legally binds the hauler or the operator to be financially responsible for any repairs or damages that would occur to the roadway. In that document, there'll be 3 different types of permits available. The permit 1 is only going to be valid when it's carried in the vehicle itself. Permit 2 would be something that would be used if an operator or hauler would be using third-party services, when it would be practical to have those permits located in the vehicles, but it'd be displayed at the place of the business. Permit 3 would be used if there were several roads in and out of local government or the municipality that would be utilized. And not to be mistaken to point out that it's not a blanket permit for all roadways within the LG. Standards can be found on PennDOT's website. The 49.2 EMA file, certainly beneficial moving forward. We move on. We confirm under number 9, who determines who performs the road repair damage that once the EMA is entered into and all parties have signed. I don't know if that makes sense. What we typically find our experience is the user would arrange and pay for the repairs. I suppose on occasions the municipality might see that have benefits of doing that themselves. It's just something that we just normally don't run into. I don't know that they need to be into the road repair business. Under number 10, we do run into this on occasions. The municipality or local government would notify the users of what's intended. Typically, we'll run into areas where you'll run into multiple companies utilizing the same roadways. It's always recommended, PennDOT will do the same thing. It's always recommended that they have the haulers work it out. More or less, you stay out of that work and put it back on the haulers to determine who's going to take care of the maintenance and so on. our experience with that, it's worked out really well. Typically, impromptu meetings, the determination on who's paying and how it's going to be controlled just essentially gets worked out on the side of the road. During the bonding process, the municipality provides the permit application, identifying the conditions and restrictions to the users. This is a good thing. This is a time where the municipality can have additional influence on how they want things addressed and how they want handled. Certainly, at this time, the municipality may require, we recommend that they do require the user to provide a maintenance plan. That maintenance plan is going to outline the minimum requirements, what's expected. It's going to describe the results of the original initial inspection, periodic inspections, frequency of those inspections. Some situations where it's low trips per day, it might be a situation where that roadway only needs inspected maybe once a month. However, on high volume usage, it might be something as often as 2 or 3 times a week, maybe daily. It's going to identify the preliminary maintenance activities prior to the hauling operation. It's going to establish, determine who's responsible and the priorities of those repairs. It's also going to provide a evaluation, an agreement on the alternatives that are going to use for different distress types. I call this the develop a cookbook. Contains a lot of ifs and thens. Essentially, what's going to occur when we have the shoulder breakage? It's going to be a mill and a fill situation. What's going to occur when the intersection begins rattling? So on. It's just going to give you a general outline that can be used by both sides, from the user to the local government. Maybe most importantly is item number 5, the response times, and what the expectations there for the non-emergency repairs, as well as the contact and routine for the emergency maintenance repairs. The goal of this whole process is to keep the roadway surface suitable for safe travel. I think both parties are interested in that. Item 15 is that would be the initial security amounts. $6,000 would be the security required for a non-paved roadway. $12,500 for per mile for a paved roadway, and then final option would be the $50,000 that PennDOT would accept, allowed to revert back to a non-paved roadway with approval. Those amounts haven't changed for years. They are on the low end. Certainly, once repair and reconstruction starts to occur, those values there would quickly be exceeded, and we will mention that and discuss that later on in the presentation. As far as item 16, the obscure security, certainly cash is king, but performance bonds, and quite often we see the letter from a letter of credits used. Quite possibly the most critical part of the whole process is the initial inspection. Existing conditions are determined and detailed. Certainly take a lot of notes during this inspection. Recommend that both sides of the agreement are present to review that. Essentially, once the bond is in place, the hauler or the user, they're only responsible for additional damage. If the road's in poor condition to begin with, they're not responsible to improve that at that time. So you certainly want to note all defects in those inspection reports. We always recommend walking the roadways. We've seen it done in numerous ways, but certainly note more information if the roadway is physically is walked. That gives you the time to take a look at the culverts that people typically overlook, drainage systems. But you certainly want to do that. We recommend that the use of video, whether it's a GoPro or handheld cameras. Document. I don't think there's any such thing as too much information when it comes to recording the existing conditions. Just one thing to note is during the EMA, the local government still is maintaining the roadway, and it continues with that maintenance work. That's snow removal. We have run into a few situations where once the road was posted and bonded, all activities stopped, and was trying to push onto the operator to handle the snow removal as well as the vegetation cutting and so on. So that is still their obligation as part of that. As we touched earlier, hauler is not responsible for the existing conditions of the roadway prior to any work starting. One more note on that, we mentioned about make sure that you inspect the culverts and the drainage features. They may even be short span bridges that aren't posted. Note the condition of that. They always seem to appear, the problems seem to appear after the work is done. And just note for everyone, if there is a problem with the culverts or they need to be repaired or replaced, as this as the EMA is executed, it doesn't really having a bond in place doesn't relieve your obligations to have your 105 and your 102 permits in place. Note the existing conditions adjacent to that roadway, whether it be a system or whether it's fence or mailbox, driveway monuments, pillars. Certainly record that. Who knows what will come up after the fact. And it might be a good way to just to determine what the conditions were and if damages actually did occur. Little housekeeping here, 18 through 30. Under item 25, improvements are made, as improvements are made or additional security is obtained, if the amount of the damage is estimated to constitute 75% or more of the amount of the security or bond. With those low bond limits that we had reviewed earlier, certainly you're going to be over that. Something to consider, take it up front, is that and they go through the process of providing additional securities as work occurs. On the closeout side, terminations of security of the EMA, those quick burn projects certainly would be something that you'll see. However, the well locations and so on are going to have EMAs for quite some time. As that well site is developed, additional wells are drilled from it. This doesn't happen as often as one would think so. Project success, cooperation between municipalities and operators. We use the 3 C's here at Gateway, the communication, coordination, and collaboration. What that means is that successful projects, all 3 components, all 3 of the C triangle are in place and it's executed. Under the communication side, we suggest opening up the lines between the local government and the operator, the hauler. Share schedules. It certainly helps with some of the stress that will be felt at on the administration side of the government as well as on the complaint side as the operator. Under coordination, especially when there are a lot of or several different operators operators working in the area or sharing the same roads, and even internal coordination and external coordination inside the hauler's place of business. There are many different components to it. So, coordinate the repair activities. It seems simple, but you'd be surprised on how often that comes up as operations change on the location or as different phases of the development occurs. As the truck traffic goes up, you'd be shocked on how often that's when the repairs are scheduled to occur. Collaboration, share the project with others. Work together to plan and execute. There'll be success stories out there, things that will be tried in the future, and the local governments had experience with that. There's many different avenues, many different stakeholders that could have information for the betterment of it. The photo on the left-hand side of the screen, that was a small bridge span that was replaced a couple years ago that we had involvement with. Certainly on projects like that, the 3 Cs are certainly important. Advanced signage. Those are long-term projects. Those are long-term reconstruction projects that are needed. So it's not the quick burn mill and fills that you would experience that seems to occur within a day or a few days. You can get away with some things in small-scale projects, but however, the longer, more in-depth projects, certainly. What we say here is that bad projects, once you do a lessons learned on a bad project, can always go back, trace back to a breakdown in one of the C's there. Lessons learned. Early energy used conventional approach to bonding. So what does that? Is to make the road repairs after the fact. The thought process was that to go in, do all of the work, get by with as minimal repairs as can be made. All those activities were occurring, and then finalize and make those repairs once the activities were finished. Certainly the public perception of that wasn't the best. Use the lessons learned from similar roadways in the municipality. This is a photo of a base stabilization that is occurring. That's where the cement additive is added to the roadway section. On this dirt and gravel roads, very limited amount of base material was placed during the original construction. Let's give you an adequate hard surface to work off of. Lessons learned from similar roadways. As the energy side of, or as the energy development continues, it's not going to be a one-time project in your municipality. There's going to be other well sites or other components of that. Working inside of that municipality, you're going to have history on numerous roads in and throughout the area. So why not take advantage of that information ahead? As the energy development has matured, it's a good time to plan ahead. We always raise the question on why not make the road improvements before the initial construction occurs on the onset. The last slide I mentioned about use the history that you have there. Typically we'll find rural communities, the construction process, the original construction process was all the same, essentially the same. Your soils, your subsoils aren't going to change that drastically. So or you can anticipate what kind of damages are going to occur while that roadway is being used and under the heavy traffic loading. So we've done this in the past and it's worked very, very well, but it does require planning. You can move into that roadway, make your drainage improvements, stabilize your base, or you do your edge fillings and millings and fillings, install the drainage system, under drain systems, and then go ahead with the initial paving. benefits that'll occur from that. Certainly your local residents that utilize those improved roadways, they're going to certainly be happier with the situation. Assist the local government staff by reducing public complaints. Certainly assist with traffic flow over the improved lanes. Gives you a chance to modify the road geometry, possibly widening out those existing narrow roadways so vehicles can pass safely. Both the haulers' vehicles as well as the haulers as well as the locals. Minimizes the construction delays. Quite often, as wells or as construction is released or it's released for construction, as the activities occur, here in Pennsylvania, we're always trying to do a year's worth of work in about 5 to 6 good months of weather. So energy or even heavy highway, we're always pushing the weather limitations to gain as many days as construction as possible. There's nothing worse than starting projects late in the fall on the onset of winter and then find out that the roadways aren't going to hold up. The roadways are going to cause maintenance or headache nuisance maintenance issues throughout the wintertime. It makes for a long season because to do the roadways the correct way or to make those repairs, you're going to need the suitable weather and quite often the dry weather. Certainly extends the construction season by providing better access. Here in the southwestern portion of the state, you'll see in some documentation as the bonding goes, we didn't discuss it earlier, but you'll see in there seasonal limitations that are placed. Local governments can place that, PennDOT can place that. Here in the southwestern section of the state, we typically don't see the deep frost action that you would in the northwest or even in the northeastern side of the state. That frosting is not a bad situation while you're utilizing those roads. The problem occurs is when the weather warms and the frost is working its way out of the roadway, as we could describe it. It makes for those soft conditions and can essentially destroy the roadways within a matter of a few hours and certainly over a couple of days during those warming trends. Finished a little early. Time for question and answers. Mark, do we have that?
Hey, Scott. Hi, it's Greg.
Yes.
You good, Justin? Okay. Hey, thanks for the presentation. That was a great presentation. I have a few questions. So I was on my local council and I was in charge of roads for probably about 12 years. And, but we never bonded a road because, we're in a tight little borough, didn't have a lot of development or obviously gas extraction in our little municipality. But I was wondering if the gas companies are generally open to these agreements, to these bonding agreements, or if you see any particular resistance at any point or any particular topic in the process.
Well, Greg, I would say in the onset of the development, there may have been some opposition to it. But both the local governments and operators we have had experience, both of them have matured over time. The EMAs are pretty typical. I don't know that there's many showstoppers in there. There's more planning occurring, more upfront engineering that's occurring on the roadways. Construction plans are being prepared. So I think that's working out really well.
Okay, that's great. Is there ever an instance where the damage to the road may have been more extreme than planned? And if that happens, how does that usually get resolved?
Well, additional securities would be posted if the local government would request them, but the damages, they can be extensive. Um, Certainly would have expanded scope of work on the repairs. Uh, we find out that the base stabilization really helps with those overages. The conventional soft spot repairs in the community that you're referring to, I'm sure you're familiar with that, where you just have soft spots develop on your roadways and they're excavated, maybe to a depth of 12 inches to 18 inches, and then backfilled with either aggregate and then asphalt. So those do occur on rare occasions, but again, under the lesson learned side of it, if you've had bad experiences in that local vicinity, you plan ahead for it. Maybe you do more upfront testing, more upfront drilling. Try to cut off the situation before it occurs.
Great. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to ask one more question, then we have a couple from our audience. So you mentioned soft spots, which made me think of core samples. Is it common to do core sampling before the bonding process?
It is. We certainly recommend it. For one, the local municipality may have, or they should have already done that when they went through the posting and the traffic study that was established. They would need to have a basis on, what the existing conditions of that roadway are. If that information can't be shared, or if it wasn't available for the minor cost that it takes to core the roadway, certainly beneficial, meaning that you have materials there to work with, or if the roadway is just lacking and it is just a roadway with a thin overlay, there's no structural components to it. You're relying essentially just on your subsoil with the aggregate traveling surface.
Great, thank you. We have a question. We have a couple questions from one of our registered audience. What if a major anticipated route is a state or county road?
Well, the local municipality, you would certainly hope for that. They would take care of the bond, and they would bond the roadway through the state, as well as the county in that situation. The local government wouldn't have any impact. Essentially, when you bond the roads, if there are state roadways or improved roadways that will allow access to the location that the haulers need to go to, that is what you want to push for. You want them to utilize those roadways, even if it is longer. Those roadways that have been improved over time, they're structurally sound. There's been more engineering done to them previously, so that's certainly what you would want to hope for.
Okay. Another question is, how do we know who the haulers will be? So perhaps the haulers, that might be stated in the agreement, but that's the question. How do we know who will haul during the drilling cycle or development?
Well, that would be something that you would ask the drilling company, the operator. You would ask for them to disclose that up front. They have to give notice when they're starting construction of the well pads through their Act 14 notices and so on. That would be certainly a time to start asking those questions. Hopefully they're working through the EMA process and the bonding process ahead of time. However, maybe the third party vendors change. There might be new haulers there, but in that situation, hopefully you would have the operator, the drilling company. You would have the EMA and the bonding with them.
Okay, great. The third question I don't really understand. Our questions are typed into the chat window. So if Diane, if you're still on, if you could maybe elaborate. But the question is, how do we access the sides? Does that make sense to you, Scott?
I think she's just looking for the PowerPoint. And we can certainly do that. I guess we cut off our contact information at the end of the presentation. If we can get that back up there, if they would certainly wish to send us an email, we can provide it, or certainly provide it to local government academy or W&J.
That's perfect. So yeah, I was thinking side of the road. Silly me. Slides make sense. Sorry, Diane. That's it for the questions. Yeah, that is it, right? Yes, that's it for the questions. The Scott will make the PowerPoints available if you email him, but also in his contact information. Well, actually, I guess we could run it through Local Government Academy. We're going to post this class on our online catalog, which you can easily access for free by just visiting our website. And if you're not already registered, just register and you'll have access to this class plus others. And also, I believe that the Center for Energy Policy and Management, Amanda at Washington and Jefferson, is interested in putting this on her website also. And also, I guess that's it. So, Scott, I want to thank you a bunch. These presentations are a lot of work. I appreciate your time and your willingness to help our municipalities with this fairly complicated subject. I assume that you might be willing to answer questions if they come through us. If someone has a particular question, maybe we could forward that to you if you don't mind. It doesn't happen that often, but sometimes it helps people just get kind of aligned with the problem. And
no objections there, Frank. Love to help.
Thank you, Scott. And I'd also like to thank Gateway Engineers. They're a huge supporter of Local Government Academy and have been for many, many years, and will continue to be, I'm sure. So we'll hear more from them in the future. They're a great partner. And thank you, Amanda, W&J College, and the Center for Energy Policy and Management for a great collaboration, and look forward to more in the future, as I mentioned earlier. So, Scott, if you don't have anything else to add, I guess we could end the class. And again, a huge thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.